We begin TVC News at 1 in the nation's capital, where the National Economic Council has approved the release of more food items to the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory to reduce the impact of the rising cost of food and other commodities. That was disclosed at the NEC meeting that the federal government has equally approved the sum of 5 billion naira for each state for the procurement of food items. TVC News State House correspondent Femi Akonde reports.
The National Economic Council has continued to roll out more interventions that will cushion the impact of the withdrawal of subsidy payments. Already there is a disruption to the national life with the rising inflation that has caused a spike in prices of food items, transport and other commodities. The federal government has approved 5 billion naira for each state and trucks of food items and other commodities as a stopgap to push back the current economic hardship.
52% of this money is given to states as grants, while 48% of the 5 billion naira is to be paid back on an installment basis within a period of 2 years, 20 months.
The MSME credit, billions and tens of billions that are being pumped into the market, even under this palliative, as it were. MSME receiving about 75 billion. You have the 100 billion agri credit.
The National Economic Council disclosed that the federal government is yet to provide succor to households and communities impacted by the devastating floods of 2022. This is because some governors of the affected states are yet to submit a comprehensive report on the loss incurred.
Right Honorable Aminu Waziri Tambuwal drew the attention of the Council to the devastating effect.
As the implementation of resolutions reached by the country's highest economic body continues across the country, NEC is also getting presentations and inputs from various stakeholders on how to grow the economy and improve the quality of living.
Objectives of microeconomic stability to be one, to have a high and stable economy, to have low inflation, to reduce unemployment.
Border communities between Nigeria and Niger Republic will also get special attention as they grapple with the biting effects of the border closure and the influx of refugees due to sanctions imposed by ECOWAS on the landlocked West African country. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
For more on this development, public affairs analyst Ahmed Tijani joins me via Zoom from Abuja. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 1. How effective and sustainable will this effort be in cushioning the impact of fuel subsidy removal?
Well, thank you for having me. I think it's a brilliant initiative by the federal government. I, for one, believe that the original idea of distribution, of cash distribution, will not have worked simply because I believe that the state government and the local government are the closest form of government to the people, and so they know the yearnings and the groanings and the pains of the people and can know exactly where it is that the stopgap measures need to be put in place. And so they understand critically how to deploy these funds that have been given to them by the federal government. However, it is interesting to see if this is a one-time measure or something that the federal government will look to continue to do on a monthly basis to ensure that states have enough resources to continue to help Nigerians along the way as we grapple with the realities of fuel subsidy removal. I, for one, think it's a brilliant initiative by the federal government, because if you look at it, it's not just the 5 billion that has been given to each state, it's also the fact that trucks of food items have also been given to state governments to ensure that there is effective distribution of these food items to their various constituents in their various states. These state governments understand exactly how to go about this, and like I said earlier, they are closer to the people than the federal government, and so they know exactly how to deal with their constraints when it comes to region of palliative.
Mr. Tijani, talking about these food items, trucks of rice that would be given to the state, what is the modality for disbursement? What is the guarantee that these items would actually get to those who need them? It is not distributed to cronies or sold?
Well, this is the interesting thing. I remember during the election, we kept clamoring for young Nigerians who became very active and participatory in politics to be aware of the fact that it's not just enough to focus solely on the federal government and who becomes president, but it's also important to focus on who becomes your local government chairman and who becomes your state governors. So this is going to be a test for most state governors to prove their reputation and improve their reputation and integrity, because you must agree with me that there's a lot of distrust between the governed and the people who are being governed. So there's a conscious realization right now that state governors or state government and local government will play a key role in delivering the dividends of democracy to Nigerians. So the question that you asked, the modality of distribution would depend solely on, I think will rest solely at the discretion of each of the state governors. So for each state, the quality of leaders that you have elected as governors will be very telling in this particular circumstance. If the federal government had any input as to how this distributed, I suppose that would have been announced along with the grants that was given, but there was no clear-cut modality from the federal government. So I think the federal government is letting the state governors take charge of the distribution of these food items. It was done during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we expect that that was a test run of ability of state governments to handle distribution of food items on a large scale like this. So maybe they will improve on those processes as we go forward.
Yes, and we remember, some of the attendant matters then during COVID, where some of these food items were actually stored in warehouses, and people had to break into some of these places to try get those for themselves. What would you suggest as lasting solution to cushion the impact of subsidy removal on petrol?
Well, I must say categorically that there is no shortcut to this subsidy removal, the impact of subsidy removal on Nigerians. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. What the federal government is doing, as commendable as it is just going to take away the pains of Nigerians for a short while. And that's why I said I expect our government to intensify its effort in providing support to Nigerians. One of the key things I would want to see would be an increase in the minimum wage earned by workers across federal government, state government, and local government workers. Again, I want to see direct funding of MSMEs, which I think is the soul and engine of every economy. We need to find a way to help private businesses stay afloat, and for those who have gone under, come back alive, and provide employment, provide a means of livelihood for ordinary Nigerians. I expect state governments to also play a critical role. Like you mentioned, with the COVID-19, it was sad to see that some state governors hoarded palliatives that were meant to provide support to Nigerians at that time. One is hopeful that lessons have been learned, and those kind of ugly things will not repeat themselves going forward. And again, there's a lot more awareness about what has been provided to states and what the sharing formula would be. So the federal government released this yesterday, and it's all over the news now. So Nigerians are aware that state governments have received certain buffers from the federal government, which should be shared among constituents of their states. So I expect that there is no hiding place, even if the governors decide to do that. The news is already out there, and so we expect them to do what is right by the people that voted them into power. Yes,
and knowing that some of this money would actually be repaid, because it's only 52% that is coming as grant, 48% is loan to be repaid within about 20 months. Public Affairs Analyst Ahmed Tijani, thank you for talking to us on TVC News at 1.
Thank you very much for having me.